from the mound.
The Giants have won the ball game. Bill Laskey has shut out the Montreal Expos.
To the mic.
He's the ace of the staff. Let's welcome in Logan Webb. Let's bring a friend of mine in. Pat Burrell. Pat, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be on with you.
Giants fans, this is Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants. KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Welcome into an extra inning post-game show on a Saturday evening with Bill Laskey. I wish I had better news and another win streak, but the win streak has stopped. The Giants lose a 6-game win streak today, and there's nothing you can do when you got a pitcher named Trevor Rogers on the hill, and he has been spectacular for 14 starts. And he got injured out of spring training, didn't get it going until almost June, and boy, he has just been elite. And today was just another one of those notches in his game logs as he goes 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 5 strikeouts. And if you look at the blueprint that he did in his last 3 games, they're almost identical against Houston. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run. Boston, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run. Seattle, 7 runs, 4 hits, 1 run. Those were the last 3, and you can add this one in there. So you talk about a blueprint. And he was amazing. He carved them up. And this is something that they are having trouble with. The San Francisco Giants are once again having trouble against the left-handers on the mound. But this guy was legit. The other ones we question sometimes. But today, Trevor Rogers was on the top of his game. 27-year-old lefty came over from Miami. And the Giants are now 15-24 against left-handers. And they are the worst team in Major League Baseball hitting under 220 against left-handed pitchers. And something's got to give here because this has got to change this year and looking into 2026. A couple good things that happened today. Of course, Willie Adames hit a home run in the first inning to knock that shutout out because it would have been a shutout. It had been 11-0. But the one run by Willie Adames, the Giants have now 13 straight games with a home run. They've hit 25 home runs in 13 games. And Luis Matos has again had a nice game today. Another 1-for-3 game today. Got a base hit to right field. And when you're looking at what Luis Matos has done in the last 9 games, 14 hits in 33 at-bats, 3 home runs, 3 doubles, couple stolen bases, 7 RBIs, hitting about 425. And he is continuing to play, and I want to see him play every day against righties or lefties and see what this young kid can do at 23 years old. So a good thing there. Luis Matos back in the game. But when you look at what the Giants have done in their last 6 games, I mean, his numbers are amazing. 47 runs they scored in 6 games. And that started last weekend when they beat the Brewers 2 games, and they came home, swept the Cubs for 3 games, and then last night, what a bizarre game that was. 15 runs on 18 hits. One of a kind, no question there. A season high and everything there. Everybody in the lineup got a hit, and today you tip your hat. And today was one of those times you tip your hat at the pitcher throwing on the hill. And Trevor Rogers was that guy. He is that good, and he was solid all day today, throwing 92 pitches, 66 for strikes. And I always talk about first pitch strikes because that sets up everything else. And he had 20 first pitch strikes for 26 hitters. So right then and there, it sets up his arsenal of pitches. He threw 30 fastballs up to about 97 miles an hour, had a nice changeup around 85, had a nice slider, a sinker, and a sweeper, all about 15, 14, and 11 pitches. So you can see how he separated the pitching that he wanted to throw, the pitches at different times. And he really never really got into, a couple times, a couple innings, first and second, second and third, but there was nothing. He just diced up the Giants hitters today, and he just pitched very well, and that's what you can say here. And Baltimore Orioles have their ace. They got him locked in for next year. And on the opposite side, the offense. Again, Baltimore came in yesterday, scored 8 runs on 10 hits. They came in yesterday 1-7. They lose yesterday 1-8. Now they win their second game out of 10 games. And then tomorrow, the rubber matchup. And this is a big game for the Giants. I really think this is a key game going into this road trip where they go to Colorado for 3 and St. Louis for 3. And this would be a nice homestand to finish 5-1. and to get on the road trip. And a lot of things have to happen. Justin Verlander back on the hill tomorrow. Of course, his last outing against the Cubs, he goes 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, pitched extremely well, got his second win, and he's going against Tomoyuki Sugano. I got that one right. And he's 35 years old, and he's been giving up, Sugano's been giving up the long ball, 23 home runs. He's 10-6 with a 4.06, and he's a right-hander, so there's the advantage going into that. His last outing didn't do well. He gave up 4 runs against the Red Sox. The start before that, he faced the Red Sox again, only going 5 innings, 5 hits, no runs. A very good pitcher. You can't just count him out. 34 walks, 91 strikeouts in 137 and a third inning. So tomorrow they got to mount an attack and get at him early and see what Justin Verlander can do and see how deep he can go, because the starting staff right now, they're losing a spot. Of course, Carson Seymour was in there today, and Carson Seymour's been having problems with the long ball. There's no question there. When you're looking at his numbers, 24 and 2/3 innings pitched, and he's given up 8 home runs, and today he gave up 2 2-run home runs in the third inning that really pushed the game right off to the Baltimore Orioles. So a tough game at the Yard today, but at the same time a nice 6-game win streak. And it's the way the Giants can bounce back, how they bounce back from this devastating loss of 11-1, where you had to have Christopher Koss throw 1 inning, and it's just embarrassing, especially in front of your hometown and your home fans of close to 38,000 fans. And it was just a bummer day. I mean, these things happen in baseball, and you go against a tough pitcher, and this is what a Cy Young pitcher does. He carves up your lineup. And, of course, as I said, the Giants are having a hard time against left-handers. A good show lined up today. Dave Tobiner is going to join me from SF Gate. He was supposed to be on the show last night, but the game came so late. So I'm going to have Dave talk a little bit about what he's been doing on SF Gate with the Giants. And then I have 2 nice interviews. Ben McDonald, of course, a Baltimore Oriole pitcher for 9 years. He's a color commentator for the Orioles, and, of course, he was a #1 pick out of LSU. Got a chat with him earlier in the week, and I had a real nice conversation with Tristan Beck. And today, he just ambushed him when he first came in the game. He had a couple nice innings, ended up going 3 2/3, got some innings in, but he gave up 4 earned runs. That's tough on him. But it was really a nice conversation I had with Tristan Beck about the mental side of the game and how you adjust from going from Sacramento to San Francisco, back to Sacramento, and some of the trials and tribulations he's had, of course, with the injury last year, the surgery. So we dial in a little bit about what he is, what his makeup is, and that'll be all later in the show. So let's take a quick break. The Giants lose today 11-1. They're 67 and 69. They're 13 and 14 for the month of August. Tomorrow, like I said, it could be a big game. If they could get that and be 500 for the month, go 5-1 on this homestand, and go into this road trip with some momentum. So we'll see at 1:05 tomorrow. Justin Verlander on the hill against Tomoyuki Sugano. Good one right there, Bill. All right, we'll be back. More coming up right here on the Sports Leader.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Back with the Bill Laskey on the Extra Inning post-game show. Giants lose a big one at Oracle today, 11-1 to the Baltimore Orioles. 11 runs, 13 hits, no errors for Baltimore. 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error for the Giants. Baltimore had 3 home runs. Jackson, number 2, Mountcastle, number 5, and Basalio, the 21-year-old rookie, got his first home run this year. And this is a kid they really like. He's 21 years old, from Dominican Republic. Looks like a good catcher, boy. He just frames the ball well, got a good arm. And we'll find out what Baltimore does. They have a whole string of young players. They just have to get a nucleus going here. And, of course, they have a disappointing season. They're 61-75. And now the Giants are 2 games under 500, 67-69. And I said it in my open about tomorrow's game. I think it's very important that they win this game to go 5-1 on the homestand, go into it with a little momentum with Colorado and St. Louis. Both Colorado, they should be able to take 2 out of 3 there, but you never know in Colorado. And, of course, St. Louis, they're battling with St. Louis in length in the wild card to try to catch the Mets. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Let's go to Kevin in Novato. Kevin, you're on Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey. A tough game today. What'd you think?
I'm just very disappointed. Listened to the game today. I listened to it last night. It was almost like a football game with all the runs and stuff. And by the way, I was at Samarin and SI. I know Kerry Crowley's an SI guy, but they really got beat up by Samarin yesterday. And it
football,
just
right?
felt like, yeah. But I'm saying like today, the Giants were horrible. Like everything was.
Well, you got to look at Trevor Rogers here, and I'm not just going to say, hey, look at this pitcher, but he has been pitching outstanding. I mean, he's got 14 starts where he's given up 1 or no runs, and 1.39 earned run average. You can't hide the numbers he's done, and I don't know if you heard my open the last 3 games. Look like blueprint like today. 7 innings in each game, 5 or 4 hits in each one. 1 run against the Astros, 1 against Boston, 1 against Seattle. So when you're looking at 3 contending teams with Houston, Boston, and Seattle, he was all that today. So, yes, I'm disappointed that they couldn't get anything going against him. But on the other hand, he is a top-line starting pitcher.
Yeah, he's an ace. He's good.
He is, and that's the only thing I can. I'm not gonna commend him. No, I'm not gonna say, oh, we can't hit him. But his numbers this year are that good. So yesterday I did a post game show and I said, hey, look out for this guy. He's been pitching real well, and this is something the Giants are having problems with. Kevin, we talk about it against left-handed starters, and they couldn't get anything going. A couple innings, first and second, but nothing to a point of what they did last night.
Correct, and I knew something was going to happen when they scored so many runs last night and then today. But they hit
the ball like crazy last night. That was a fun game to watch. The problem was it was on Apple TV, so a lot of Giants fans couldn't watch it, but they got to listen to John and Mike call it on KNBR, which a good combination with both of them on KNBR the last couple of days.
Bill, you're the best. Thank you very much, and you take care. Okay, bud?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks for the call. Let's get him tomorrow. I think that's the new way of thinking for tomorrow. Of course, Justin Verlander on the hill threw a great game against the Cubs. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs. Love to see that same thing tomorrow because it's a 105 game. See if they can come back after this devastating loss, 11-1. Let's go to San Jose. Let's talk to Dennis. Dennis, you're on an Extra Inning post-game show. How are you doing this evening, Dennis?
I'm doing good, bro, but I got to tell you, I want to get all this out. First, I think we're going to have to win 23 games in September to get to the playoffs, okay? And I hope Jose next year gets 3 starters and some relief because we don't have it. We just don't have it. We got him.
Well, we're missing a couple of starters. I don't know if we miss 3. You'll have Landon Root back. You'll have Robbie Ray and Logan Webb. Those are 3 there. And you also have Carson Whisenhunt, Hayden Birdsong, and maybe a couple other ones that I'm missing that could possibly fit. And there might be another starting pitcher they go out and get. I don't think you're that bad in the starting rotation. You might get another veteran in there, and then the bullpen. You know, who knows what they're going to do with Taylor Rogers? You might see him back in the bullpen. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
But, Dennis, let me ask you something. What did you think of last night's game? Because I thought for sure you'd be calling in after they got 15 runs, 18 hits. You had to have been excited to watch that offensive explosion.
It's great. I said, well, I'm not going to call because I know it's a great game they did, but I want them to win tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dennis. I really think tomorrow's a big momentum game for this team, especially seeing if they can bounce back 11-1 after they get 15 runs and going against a good right-hander from Japan and 10-6 4-point earned run average. But this is a guy they can hunt, get some early runs with. And now Justin Verlander on the hill today. It was just tough watching Carson Seymour trying to get through those middle innings the second time around, and they caught him with a couple home run balls. And then Tristan Beck got ambushed. The first three hitters he had, he settled down and pitched pretty good. But today was more of a bullpen game because they didn't have a starter etched into it, and Carson Seymour ended up getting his first start.
Yeah, Bill. I just know this team's a better team than what they got right now, but the pitching's the problem. You know, really pitching.
I think both sides. I'd like to see consistency out of the offense and see if they can win some one-run games, 26-24 with one-run game, Dennis. And the mix and the match in the bullpen is going to be tough the rest of the way. And we'll see what happens without Randy Rodriguez down there. You got now Ryan Walker being your closer, and you got a couple guys, Buto and Luke Casey, they're your setup guys. So there's some different names, different faces filling some different roles in the bullpen. But at the same time, you know what? Hey, you know, each day is a different game, and you just got to get to 500 and see if you can mount an attack, especially on this road trip, because this is it, Colorado, St. Louis, and then you come back and you play Arizona, L.A., 6 games against Arizona, 7 against the Dodgers, and that's going to make your season right there.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for your call. I appreciate your time. Let's go to Big Sam. Big Sam leaving the game today, disappointed, most likely. What'd you think of it today, Big Sam?
Hey, Bill, how you doing, my brother?
Tough game today. I enjoyed the last 6, no question there. I mean, it was fun watching them win every game today. They just ran into a buzzsaw with Trevor Rogers, and he was all that.
Bill, what a treat it was these last 6 games, and you kind of have hope, and you never want to give up hope because you see some teams over the course of our years and knowing baseball stats, and teams of 10, 11 games out, and, you know, you were part of it maybe when you were 11 games and came to win, in Joe Morgan's days.
We won 10 games in that stretch, Big Sam. In that September, we won 10 games to get back into that. 10. We swept the Astros. We swept the Dodgers. That was a fun couple weeks in September to get us all the way down to that end. And then the Dodgers beat us Friday, Saturday, and we ended up beating the Dodgers, and the Braves won. So that was a fun year. My first year, rookie year, 1982. That's what happened. And winning 10 games like that, boy, there was electricity everywhere.
Yeah, I remember I was 8 years old, and, I got to the game a little bit late.
Thanks, Big Sam.
I was I was out down in Belmont for the Greek festival. I do have some Greek blood in me, so it was 90-plus degrees there, and I get to the park, and it was probably great Greek food, and Lenardi's is directly across the street from the Greek Orthodox Church out in Belmont, and I was cooking, man. I said, I can't wait to get.
So how much, Big Sam? How much Greek you got in you, Big Sam? I'm 50% Greek, also, man. How are you? How much Greek you got into you?
Probably 25%. 25%.
Okay.
So
I grew up with Greek food, man. My mom made Greek food all the time, and baklava and lamb was flying to our house.
Wow. Yeah, they put on the best. They put on the best festivals. So I don't do hot weather. So it was 65 degrees by the time I where I'm at. Not too far from the studios, and you're like, thank the Lord that this is cool weather. I'm not liking this 90-plus. Our summer,
you and I both.
Summer is finally
I can tell you, Big Sam, you and I won't be living in Arizona. You and I can guarantee you that.
When the crowd was a little, after they returned the favor today after a wonderful game last night. When I saw Johnson, I said, wait, we had him for a little while. I'll bet he's going to come and have a field day today, and he did.
He did. He went 2 for 3 with a walk, and he was a pretty good player for the Giants. It just ran out of places for him. He really just couldn't fit in. When he did, he was quick, and he had a home run. I remember the home run he hit for the Giants, and a good, solid outfielder. But he couldn't fit even the fourth outfielder here, and he got pushed out in Sacramento, and sure enough, Baltimore Orioles picked him up, and he's having a good little year for him. He's only hitting $150, but at least he's playing. He's got good speed. He's quick, and boy, he mounted attack at a double in the 8th inning off of Matt Gage, lefty. Got a nice base hit in the 4th inning after the home run ball by Basallo. But Kruk and John Miller were saying, when you're an ex-Giant, you want to come back to Oracle and shine, and today he did.
And most of all, and I think the crowd started getting restless after the kid came up, and then came in. I'll look forward to listening to your interview with him as a.
Yeah, Tristan Beck you're talking about. Yeah, it was tough. They ambushed him first 3 times up. The first 3 hitters got hits and for home run ball. He's fighting. He's really fighting, and he's working hard at a lot of things. And we always talk about the mental side of pitching, and when you don't pitch that much, then you get in there and you fight for it. He's had some tough outings, and today was a tough outing, but yet he showed a nice sign of coming back after he gave up 3 runs in the 4th to punch out the side in the 5th inning. He gave him nice 3 2/3 innings, and I think that was one thing of giving him a little link so you don't burn out that bullpen.
And lastly, in an advocacy of people like you and speaking to these young kids, I think he's a great young man who I don't think is going to be bouncing up and down anymore. With the 25 games remaining, I think he's going to get a lot of innings, not a lot, but he'll get enough to prove himself that he belongs as an everyday MLB player. Bill, that's my time.
I think he'll get innings in that middle role, long role, Sam, the middle innings, couple innings here, a long man role. And, I dissected going in today, he had thrown 21 games, and 13 of those he put zeros on. He only had 2 bad outings, and the length of a couple games, you remember when he went up and pitched in Toronto, he threw like 4 1/3 innings. He threw against San Diego, 3 1/3, shut him down. So there has been some linked games where he's really performed well and gave him innings in the middle of the game after the starter got bounced. But I like his pitch mix. I like his curveball, his sharp slider, and he's got a good fastball. And today they just got on him quickly. But I think he's a good role down there in that long man, middle man role. And I know they like him. He throws hard. He's a good kid. And you'll like that interview. He really shows a lot of good things about him.
And, Bill, have a great rest of your show, and oppa!
I love it. I love it. Right on, Big Sam. Hey, be well tonight. Enjoy the rest of the night. All right, we're going to take a quick break and bring on Dave Tobner. Dave writes for the SF Gate. We'll get some insight about the last 6 games. And, of course, every time I bring on Dave, it seems like the Giants lose. So maybe one of these times we'll have a win where Dave and I will talk. But we'll bring on Dave next and talk some Giants baseball right here on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show on KNBR, the Sports Leader. Did you ever think you could become a big league baseball player? Well, now you can. Come to Big League Coaching Fantasy Camp. It's January 11th through January 17th, 2026 in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. Our host hotel is the Marriott Suites for the week. Come play with the great coaches, Joe Youngblood, Shooty Babbitt, Tim Flannery, Scott Gereltz, Mark Davis. Go to bigleaguecoaching.org and sign up today. Become a big leaguer.
This is the flagship of Giants baseball. Double play! KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader. This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
Back on the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey. A disappointing loss for the San Francisco Giants after winning 6 straight. They lose to the Baltimore Orioles today 11-1 at Oracle Park. And the Orioles now are 61-75. They're 2-8 in their last 10, and the Giants are had 1 run, 5 hits, 1 error, and they've won 6 out of 7, and they're 67-69. So I really feel tomorrow's a big momentum game, and we'll talk about that next with my guest, Dave Tobner. Of course, he writes for the SF Gate. Let's bring in Dave. How are you tonight, Dave?
Doing great, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. We were supposed to link up last night, but the game went so long and there was no time. And today I'm so glad we got to talk. But again, Dave, we keep going 0 for as many games as we've been on, and we can't get a win here, Dave. What the hell's going on?
It would have been a lot better to talk last night. I mean, but yeah, that was a rough one today. I mean, maybe we should just schedule it on the fly going forward. You know, wait and see until they win a game and go from there.
Well, you know, Dave, when you look at what they did in the 6 games, scoring 47 runs, and, of course, last night was a big, big game, scoring 15, everything was linked in. But, you know, you always go, this is Major League Baseball. Dave, you cover it. I've watched it. I've played it. You fall into that guy that's really a good pitcher. And today, Trevor Rogers, it wasn't a fluke. He's been doing this for 14 straight starts. So he did carve up the Giants pretty well. And we know they're 15-24 now against lefties, and they do have a problem facing left-handed pitchers.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm today. I mean, he's just been dominating playoff teams back and forth. You know, and a left-hander, like you said, it's just always an issue for the Giants. And it hurts a little bit more because they're kind of in a stretch now where it feels, you know, they can't win every game, but it feels like they have to win every game. Mm-hmm. So every loss is just a gut punch, especially one where they had a chance to gain on a team in front of them. But, you know, I mean, like you said, tomorrow's a big momentum game, and if they can come back, take the series, you know, and get some momentum for the next one, that's important. But today was a tough one. It was a non-competitive start from Seymour, and they just ran into one of the hottest pitchers in baseball. So it was just a perfect storm working against them today.
And, you know, we've watched them talk about character. We've watched them listen about confidence. We've listened to Willie Adames talking about Matt Chapman being a leader in the clubhouse. And really tomorrow is going to show that. After you get beat pretty well today, after you score 15 on Friday, and today you get embarrassed in front of your home crowd, tomorrow's really going to show the spirit and life if this team can bounce back and try to win a few more games.
Yeah, you know, it's what team's going to show up? Is it the team? Which second half version of the Giants is going to show up? The team that played terribly for the month after the All-Star game, or the team from the last 6 games? You know, it's a big momentum game, like you said, and it's going to show a lot about what this team is really made of. You know, they're on life support, but they still have a chance. You know, and as long as you got to keep playing, as long as you still are mathematically alive. And, you know, we've seen stranger things happen, and it's definitely not a given, but, you know, the way they respond tomorrow is going to go a long way in determining, you know, how they're going to finish. So it is a big game. You know, it may not feel like it, but it is a very big game for a lot of reasons.
Dave Tobner joining me on the Extra Inning post-game show. He's a writer for the SF Gate, and you know, one of the things you talk about is Willie Adames going to get to 30 home runs? It hasn't happened since Barry Bonds did it, and today, again, 25th home run. He likes that elevated fastball all of a sudden, Dave, and he's mounting an attack on it.
Yeah, I read, I think it was Jeff Young on Twitter said that he's the first Giant to get to 25 home runs by the end of August since Bonds in 2007, something like that, some crazy stat like that. You know, when they signed him in December, you kind of felt like they had a chance to get their first 30 home run guy. And, you know, he started off pretty slow, but he's really kind of gotten more comfortable and settled in. And, you know, it takes a while with a contract like that, a new place, and a place that isn't very favorable for hitters. You know, it takes a while to kind of learn the intricacies of it. But and I think he's got a great shot. He only needs 5 more, and you know, he's got the whole month coming up. So I think, you know, finally they can stop talking about that. Now if they can have the same left fielder for back-to-back opening days, there'll be nothing left to talk about.
Well, 26 games left to hit 5 home runs, and you're going to Colorado for 3, and that sparks you right there. It's just how they're going to finish. And when you start looking at this team, 25 home runs they've hit in 13 games. That just is impressive to me. And they're starting to swing the bat better. Today, of course, they got beat up by Trevor Rogers, but overall in those 6 games to take 3 from the Cubs and go into Milwaukee and take Saturday and Sunday's game, and really on Friday they tied it up in the top of the 9th. Contreras hits the home run to end it in the bottom of the 9th. I thought that series was very well played, and then coming home and sweeping the Cubs, there was a lot of momentum. And today with a 6-game win streak, it just, you know, it ended. But you got to come back tomorrow. I said it, you said it, and I think that's a big game for Justin Verlander. And he threw a good one the other day, 6 hits, 2 hits, 6 innings, 2 hits against the Cubs, kept the ball down. He wasted a couple pitches on the 0-2s where he kind of went back and he got hurt by those earlier in the season. And, you know, here you go, a veteran pitcher, 42 years old. Let's see if he can mount an attack against his Baltimore Oriole team.
Right, and, you know, this is kind of, you know, I mean, they would have been – they'd be happier if they were in it a little bit more, but this is the reason they got a guy like Verlander, to give him that veteran start who's been there before, who can come in and kind of, you know, right the ship, quiet things down. You know, nothing's going to rattle him. I mean, you know, we're talking about like it's a playoff game, but really every game left in the season for the Giants, is a playoff game. You know, every game feels like a must-win, and you know, Verlander he's pitched better than his record this year, that's for sure. And, you know, his last few starts have been really good. So it's a big one tomorrow, probably his biggest one as a Giant. And, you know, like you said, it's gonna determine a lot. You know, they had a chance to gain ground today. They missed it, but, you know, they can't win every game. So it's when you have a chance like that, you have to take advantage of it. So tomorrow's a big one. Tomorrow's a really big one.
You know, Dave, they paid Justin Verlander $15 million for 1 year. Would you entertain him for another year next year at a lower fee? Would you even think about it? Would you take a second look at him?
You know, I mean, he's you know, he gets a lot of flack on social media and from Giants fans because of his record, and you know, it's hard to overlook the record. But you know, the guy's, for a 4th or 5th starter, he's given the Giants everything they could want. You know, he's for the most part stayed healthy. He's given them innings. He's given them chances to win. You know, he really should have 5, 6, 7 wins if he would have had any run support in the beginning of the year. You know, with as frugal as the Giants can be with starting pitching, they don't like to. It's not their MO to spend big money on free agent starting pitchers that aren't their own. So bringing him back, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't bet on it. You know, I think they want Birdsong to take a step next year and Rupp and, you know, and then fill out that 5th starter spot. But, you know, I would, if the price is right, you know, why not? If he can get you innings.
I think you can take a look at him. Blade Tidwell's another one. You know, Dave, when they picked up Blade Tidwell, he was throwing the ball real well. And, you know, inflammation in the shoulder wasn't a major injury. I think the biggest injury is Randy Rodriguez. That's a surprise. And then coming out today, he said his arm's been sore for a while, but he's been pitching through it. And anytime you get a Tommy John, the ligament in your elbow is just fried, and that's what's happening to him. It surprised me. It really did. I thought it might have just been a sore elbow like a Landon Root, but when the 2 doctors said the best thing you could do is have a Tommy John, that's a gut punch for that kid.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, all-star season, one of the best relief seasons the Giants have had in a long time, and, you know, they treated him with kid gloves for the most part. You know, he didn't pitch a lot of back-to-backs, even when he took the closer's role after they traded Duvall away. You know, there were some games where he threw 30, 40 pitches, but those were kind of few and far between. So it's really a shame. You know, it seemed like they tried their best to minimize the risk, but it just caught up to him. But you know, he'll be back in a year. Probably miss all of next year, but he'll be ready to go in 27 at least. So. Guy's seem to come back from Tommy John like it's nothing these days. So hopefully it's the same for him, and he can come back strong and be a big part of the back end of that bullpen again.
That voice you hear in the Extra Inning Post-Game Show is Dave Tobner. You can follow him on X at GG Giants. So there's 3 G's in there, and it's GG Giants. He does a great job on X, and he does a great job on SF Gate. A hitter that we're talking about right now is a 23-year-old Luis Matos. Boy, he is on fire, 14 for 33 in his last 9 games, 424 average, 3 home runs, 3 doubles, couple stolen bases, 7 RBIs, playing both corners, playing right field and left field, and he's showing the Giants that he's going to contend to try to be on this roster next year. He's out of options, Dave, and I think that's the big thing. Can he beat on it? Can he be on the 26-man roster when they start 2026?
Oh, it's really nice to see. I mean, it seemed like when they sent him down a couple of weeks ago when Encarnacion came back, it seemed like that was kind of the Giants kind of throwing their hands up and saying, who knows if this guy's going to be able to contribute. But the way he's hit since he's been back here, he's raised his average something like almost 55, 56 points. He's got
225 right now
hit
after today.
Yeah, and
yep.
I think he was at 167 when he came up. So, he's got 3 homers, 3 doubles, a triple, a couple of stolen bases in there too. He's playing really good. And it would be great if he could take that right fielder's job, because the Giants have been searching for homegrown outfielders for so long, and if they can lock him in with Lee in center and Ramos in left, and not have to worry about putting resources towards finding a right fielder next year, it would be huge. But I mean, he's doing everything he can to make his case for it, and it's nice to see. The hype on him kind of was so high when he was hitting so well in AAA a couple years ago, and he just really hasn't put it together up here. So it's nice to see him kind of putting everything together and showing how talented he is. Hopefully he can keep it up, but he's shown no signs of slowing down. He's one of the only guys to get a hit today. So it's been really nice to see.
Dave, an outfielder of Drew Gilbert, of course, they picked him up in the Tyler Rogers trade. He's been a little spark plug. You little dude, man, he's got a an arm, hustles all the time, got a couple nice hits yesterday. In the post-game show, I really talked about that double he hit in the 3rd inning after Baltimore scored 3 to make it 6-4. He came up with 2 outs. Matos got a base hit. He got moved over. Bailey hit a ball to second. And that double he hit, I thought, was one of the key points of that game to get another run for the Giants. And he's hitting the ball pretty well, hitting a couple other balls yesterday to the warning track. What have you seen out of him? Do you think he could be a possibility on this roster sooner or later?
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's had some great swings over the last few games. It took him a little while to settle in at the plate, but he's looked a lot more comfortable there. And he plays right field at Oracle like he's been there his whole career. He plays the wall really well, and it's not an easy right field by any means. So, it was a really good trade because they got some very useful pieces with the Rogers deal. And it seems like he can step right into that 4th outfielder role, or even like a platoon, because it seems like he can play, at least both corner spots for sure. So, maybe next year they go with a Matos Gilbert platoon to start the year, or they don't want to spend big money on a free agent outfielder. They have some internal options, but he looks like he can play, and it's exciting because the Giants have just had such a dearth of young outfielders over the last few years. It's nice to see some guys come up and play like they belong, and he's really shown a lot. I mean, he looks like he's a player. He looks like he's going to stick.
Dave, one of your recent articles, you talked about Bob Melvin and a possibility of moving on with him or without him, and some of the concerns you felt that he might not be that motivator for this team. And there's some possibilities that even Buster Posey said, hey, even though we give an extension, nothing's concrete yet. And I think that's a key when Buster Posey said that. And it was very slightly said. It wasn't like it was this is what we're thinking about. But there's got to be question marks in the front office about this, especially with a team that's under 500 right now. The months of June and July were not good baseball months. And, you start thinking down the road. And sure, they gave him an extension. Extensions can always be bought out. What did you think about when you wrote that article? And then when you wrote it, how did you get reaction from fans?
Well, when I wrote it, they hadn't fallen apart completely yet. They were still, on the fringes of the wild card. They hadn't just completely fallen apart. And it was one of those things where, when a team that's built like the Giants are built, with the money that they're spending, isn't performing, you can't fire the players, like the old adage goes. So you start to think like, well, what can they do to get a spark? And in-season managerial changes have resulted in playoff appearances before. I think in 2022, the Phillies and the Blue Jays both did it, and they both ended up making the playoffs. So I was kind of approaching it from the angle of, would that be something to spark the clubhouse and to get the Giants playing back to the level that they should be playing? Not necessarily an indictment of Melvin. It seems like he has the respect of the clubhouse still. I think the organization really respects him, and I think it would take a total collapse for them to move on from him. I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think they're starting to play well now. You're kind of getting to see what this team can look like when guys are comfortable and guys are healthy. Chapman's healthy, Devers and Adames are kind of settling in. Matos is starting to play up to his potential. The lineup's lengthened. They look like they can stay in a game with their offense. So it would surprise me if they got rid of him. And when I wrote that, I was thinking, just what could they do to spark something, because they just looked dead, and they weren't winning at home, and that was a big thing. And it just seemed like they needed to do something. As far as the fan reaction, social media can be ruthless, and Melvin, poor Bob isn't exactly he's not beloved on social media, I guess you could say. So I think fans always want to, when something's not going right, the manager is right in the crosshairs. I remember I can remember in 07 and 08 when Bruce Bochy first got here, fans were calling for him to be fired because the Giants were so bad. And it's just it happens to all of them. And with Melvin, he has that reputation because the Padres were a bit of underachievers with him when they had Soto and Machado and all those guys. And but he's won. He hasn't won the big one, obviously, but he's a winner, and he keeps getting jobs for a reason. And I think he's pretty well respected in the organization, and I think it would take an awful lot for them to move on from him. I'm thinking like a total September collapse, but I think he'll be back next year. I don't think they'll extend him. I think that'll be, he'll be kind of in a lame duck year. And I think there might be some changes to his coaching staff. That might be, something that could be done to placate the noise as far as people wanting a change. But, when I wrote that, I was just thinking of what the team had left to spark something, and not necessarily an indictment on Melvin one way or another. It's not up to us. It's not up to the fans. It's not up to me. It's only up to Buster Posey in the front office. But I think they respect him, and I think they're kind of giving him the leash to see what he can do with a healthy squad, which they seem to have now. And I think if they finish strong, he's going to save his job, and I think he'll be back next year, but as a lame duck. But it would surprise me if they move on from him. I'd be very, very surprised.
Dave, 26 games left. 26 games. That's it. The 2025 season will be over. The forecast, I always ask people, what's your forecast? What are you trying to get? What are the Giants trying to do here with 26 games? You got to win more than 13. You got to be more than 500. And you got 6 with the Diamondbacks and 7 with the Dodgers. So there's 13 right there. They have to do something here. They have to mount an attack this week. And I think this week's going to play to see if that's going to happen. If there is a chance for the wild card, there's going to be some hookups where the Mets are playing the Phillies again and the Padres are playing the Dodgers again, but you don't have that much time left. So what are you looking at? What do you think the Giants are looking for in this next 26 games?
Well, I think their goal should be to finish over 500. It's been a while since they've done that. This team is constructed well enough to do that. This isn't a 500 team. It shouldn't be a 500 team. It shouldn't be a below 500 team. They're just better than that on paper. So you're looking for them. I personally, I like to play it up on social media, but I think the playoff hopes are on life support. I mean, I'm optimistic. I'm not going to give up as long as they still have a mathematical chance. But they've got to climb over the Reds, and the Cardinals are right there, and the Diamondbacks are right there, and then they've got to get to the Mets, and it's going to be really tough. Impossible? No, but just tough. So you'd like to see, for me anyway, I'd like to see them still compete. I don't want to. It seemed like the last couple of weeks before this winning streak, they just looked so dead. I mean, they just looked like a team that was just kind of rolling over. No competitiveness, no fire, no anything. And once if they fell behind by 2 or 3 runs, you felt like the game was over. Now they feel like, it feels like they're in every game. It feels like their offense is gelling a little bit. So you want to see that continue. And for me, I want, you always talk about taking positive momentum into the off season, and they've got to give this front office a reason to keep investing in this roster. Yeah. They could easily cut costs again this winter if they wanted to, but if they finish strong, if they win, 84 games, something like that, still finish out of the wild card, but at least show that they're better than they have been over the last month and a half. I think that's the most
I'm right there with you, Dave, and I think it starts tomorrow. You and I both said it. I think it starts tomorrow with a rebound game. They have to come out tomorrow and show that life. And tomorrow's that game. To go 5-1 on a homestand would be perfect, and it gives you that road trip to keep it going. So. But, Dave, thanks again, my friend. Well, hopefully I'll get you on in September when they get a win, and we'll be able to celebrate a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk after a win, Bill. I've had enough of this loss stuff.
I know, it's
Thanks,
tough.
Bill.
Well, it's Dave Tovner. Of course, you could read his work at SF Gate. But thanks again, Dave, for spending some time with me tonight. All right, coming up next, I sat down with Tristan Beck earlier this week, had a nice conversation with him. You're going to know a little bit more about Tristan Beck and what he's gone through, ups and downs. That's coming up next right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. I'm excited always to bring my guest on. He's been on the show many times. I've been following him through the minor leagues and into big leagues. Let's bring in number 43, Tristan Beck. Tristan, how are you today?
Hey, doing well, Bill. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for your time today. I know the Cubs series coming in here and then Baltimore coming in here the weekend. It's a good little homestand. What do you feel about the team right now?
Feeling good. Feeling good. We're coming back from Milwaukee, kind of a long road trip last week, but always good to go in and take 2 out of 3 from a really good team. So, got the Cubbies here. They're in front of us in the standings, so looking to keep the winning streak rolling.
I got to ask you about Uke. Of course, Mr. Euchre, as they say, Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, had a nice celebration. You got to watch that on Sunday in Milwaukee. How intense was that, and did you know much about him?
No, that was amazing. What a great little ceremony they had out there. And I was aware of Bob Uecker just as much as anybody is, right? Mr. Baseball, some of his pop culture cameos. But no, it was pretty interesting to get to learn a little bit about him and just take it all in. And obviously, man, what a great life in baseball he had.
Tristan Beck joining me on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. I kind of want to go back in time a little bit. And, of course, you played at Stanford. You get drafted by Atlanta. You get traded over to the Giants July 31st, 2019. I want to go into the mental side of being a pitcher, the mental side of moving around so much, getting to know other players, teammates. When you got drafted, it was to the Braves, and then you get traded to the Giants. What was your thought pattern when all that was going on?
It was pretty wild, man. Anybody who's been traded knows it can be a little bit of a roller coaster. For me specifically, that was in the middle of my first full season of minor league baseball, so really, really early in my career. But it always just kind of comes down to landing spot and the guys you have in the clubhouse with you. And I always say this, but that 2019 San Jose team I joined was one of the best locker rooms I've ever been in. And we showed up and started winning games immediately, which is always fun.
The problem was it happened in 2020. COVID hit. Everything was pulled back. What did you do in that time, and how did you reset?
That was a bit of a crazy one. I was in a pretty nice position. I got to head home back to Corona, California, and my brother, 2 years younger than me, Brendan, he was playing ball at Stanford at the time, and of course they got shut down. Mm-hmm. So we got to hang out all summer, and we both got kind of little summer jobs at Costco pushing carts, but moreover, we got to do some training together, throw. Had a bunch of guys from our hometown who were all either playing college ball or minor league ball. So we had a good little group together.
Well, things happen in 2021. You get from San Jose, you get moved up to Richmond, and then you end up going to Sacramento. And here's this another story, you know, jumping leagues, jumping divisions, jumping clubhouses. You're moving up. You're seeing new people. You're seeing new players. Your new coaching staffs. You know, fans don't understand when those changes happen. You have to fit in. How hard was that for you?
You know, I'd be lying to you if I said it was easy, but you know, that's one of those things about being in baseball that you just kind of get used to, you know, and I think it's one of those things that people really get to take from the game is, you know, just learning how to get along wherever you go. I mean, when you move as much as we do, when you travel around, you move clubhouses, getting promoted, getting demoted, you know, at the end of the day, you just have to be able to be productive wherever you're at. And, you know, I've been super thankful. I say this about the Giants all the time, but man, there's a lot of really good people in the minor league system here. And it always makes it easy when you're getting your boots on the ground in a new city, trying to figure out which way's up. But no, it definitely takes some getting used to when you're moving around that much. But I think it makes it a little easier to adapt to the fast pace up in the big leagues when you finally get there.
And that's where I want to go next. You get promoted April 19, 2023 to the major leagues, a big step for you. You know, you're thinking about Stanford back in college days, watching the Giants play, and here you are in that clubhouse at Oracle Park now as a big leaguer. Another step, joining a clubhouse where you have to fit in, joining a bullpen where you got to know these guys and talk to them. People don't understand. Sometimes it's not that easy, Tristan.
Yeah, absolutely. That specifically for me, that was a little even more difficult, being that was my first time ever being a bullpen pitcher, was getting called up. So adjusting to the new role was pretty difficult there. But luckily, I mean, like you said, man, having kind of new faces in the locker room that you have to get used to seeing. That year, we were a pretty veteran team, so having guys like you know, Jacob Junis, Alex Wood was there, Ross Stripling. You know, the Rogers brothers were in the bullpen that year. So that went a long way, man. Those guys really kind of took me under their wing a little bit and helped me move along to get comfortable as quickly as I could.
Tristan Beck joining me on the Extra Inning Post Game Show. 2024 comes. Of course, you have the surgery, but I want to get into getting back into baseball, a mental side, a physical side, how you can compete, because all these guys are 3-4 months into the season, and now you got to regenerate how you can get to the big leagues. And you did. You end up getting up in September, 7 appearances, sparkling 1.6 earned run average. Going through all of that, going through the pain, sitting out for 60 days or more, and then jumping back into those spikes and competing, another mental side you had to get over.
Yeah, yeah, that was a tough one. You know, it was my first time in my career having to go under the needle, have a surgery. Thankfully, everything all good. You know, some of the best doctors around made sure I was all right. But no, that was a long season, man. Just it can be tough sitting in the dugout for all those. And I was lucky enough to do my rehab in San Francisco mostly. But just getting to be in that clubhouse and, you know, not be able to help the cause, you know, to see guys go through the ups and downs of a season, it's just tough to be there, be in it, but not really be able to have any ownership of it.
Well, 2025 season comes upon you. You go to spring training. You don't break with the club. And that's a difficult punch in the gut. It always happens. I was like that too. You're thinking about it, you're believing it, and it doesn't happen. So now you got to go back to Sacramento and again regroup. How do you do it mentally? How do you do it physically? And again, you got to shine, because every outing you're watching that you're doing, they are watching you, and you know this. How do you stay so consistent?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you said it, you know. Obviously, it's a bit of a gut punch. You know, you thinking you're making the team, you know, been in the clubhouse, closing out 24. But, you know, it becomes a little easier to swallow when you see how well that bullpen had performed and, you know, is performing still. I mean, first half of the season, man, those guys were really throwing the ball. And anyways, I think that just kind of sets the tone. You know, a lot of that trickles down into the minor league system. And, you know, in AAA, we were sitting there seeing the way the guys were taking the rock, seeing the way they were throwing it up top. And, you know, that just kind of sets the tone. Those of us who are on the roster and even fighting for a spot know that, you know, that's the standard. And if you want to be considered for anything when a spot opens up, you got to, you know, be able to rise to that level of competition.
Well, now you get called back up, which was a huge, huge plus for you, throwing the ball really well in Sacramento. And you get called up May 5th. You end up going 3 appearances, bouncing back to Sacramento, coming back up in June, bouncing back in July. that's a tough road. Fans don't understand the yo-yo effect, especially when you're throwing a ball so well that you did. But numbers do that. Numbers do change sometimes where you're the guy that has to go down. Sometimes you fight that. Sometimes you get angry. Sometimes it's just like, why me? How'd you do it? How'd you handle it?
A little bit like we said about coming up through the minor leagues and just kind of being used to the volatility of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like you said, that's just kind of the way the numbers work out on a roster. Certain guys have options, certain guys don't. Certain roles need to be filled, and I serve a pretty specific one, being that long reliever. So you just got to be able to roll with the punches. I moved up and down quite a bit in 23, that first rookie year, and I think that set me up for a good bit of success, at least mentally, just being able to weather, the course of a long season. So we're in a good spot and feeling very good, very happy to be back up at the club right now.
Tristan Beck joining me on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Of course, Tristan and I watch every appearance. I'm a big fan of Tristan Beck. I've been following you for many years, and I
appreciate you.
I always do this, and I always tell you this. And in 21 appearances, I mean, you've been fabulous. I look at your numbers all the time, and 13 out of those 21, you put zeros on the board. You can go even further. 4 times, you've only given up 1 run. So that's 17 out of 21. A couple other times, 2 runs, 3 runs. So now we're at 19 out of 21 outings that you have performed extremely well. Now the 2 outings I want to talk about, that if you could take those off of your 21 outings, it's been unbelievable season. And that's what I want fans to understand. 2 games, one was a 5-run and one was a 6-run game. And those were the kind of games where you were stuck in. 13-1 was one loss, 10-4 was the other loss, and you were the guy out there that had to suck up the innings. It takes a long time for a reliever to get that earned run average down. You have been sensational about this. Those gut punches we talked about earlier, the gut punches that you had to go out there and give up these runs, were tough on you. How did you bounce back?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate it. A whole lot of shoulda, coulda, woulda, but
yeah,
this. All you can do is take the rock and get back out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, obviously those kind of outings are never fun, and mentally coming off of those can be pretty difficult. But like you said, I mean, anytime you take the rock in a game when you're down more than a few or something like that, the whole goal is just to keep the leverage guys out of the game. So, do we want to throw up zeros every single time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But especially in these games that are out of hand late, at the end of the day, my job is to finish that game. Make sure that our leverage guys, our 7, 8, 9 guys can take a day off, be ready to go out there and win a game tomorrow. So, at the end of the day, you can always try to hang your hat on that. At least you kept the leverage guys out of the game.
Tristan, 2 games I really want to talk about. In Toronto, you go 4 1/3 innings. You only give up 1 hit, no walks, 2 strikeouts. A game that you had to go put zeros on. I can't remember the starter that came out early, but you put out there and you just showed what you can do in length. Another one was against San Diego, where you went 4 innings, only giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Now, you're usually 1 inning, 2 innings. Now you're out there for 4 innings, and you're limiting the damage. You're keeping the team in a place that they could pull this game out. When you're doing that, do you think about pitch count? Do you think about innings? Or are you just going out there every inning competing?
Yeah, it is a little bit of a different mentality when you get into the game that early. I mean, I think both of those games I was in there by the 4th inning. Maybe in Toronto I was even in there in the 3rd. But yeah, when you look up and you see how long you got, how many more innings you got to close the game out, it definitely changes the mentality a little bit. Kind of going back to what we were saying about, if the game's out of hand, if it's a couple of runs, the big thing is just to be able to bridge it and try to save the bullpen for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that hasn't always been my role this year, being a length guy, that's what it's all about. So on that side of things, you want to try to be as efficient as possible. Just, keep the pitch count down, be able to go out there for a 4th inning. The biggest thing in both of those outings was that I think my pitch count was pretty low in both of those. And, given the fact that I'm not necessarily built up to like a full starter workload, that's probably the most important thing, is just keeping that down. But no, like it's nice when it works out that way for length. But yeah, biggest thing is, like I said, keep going back to it, but making sure that we're keeping the bullpen fresh for the coming days.
Couple more minutes with number 43, Tristan Beck on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. I got a couple pitching questions to ask you. You know, you always talked about being a starter. Now you're in a bullpen. No windup. You're comfortable from the stretch. But I want to ask you from the stretch position, why are your feet so close together?
You know, that's something I've always done going back to high school, was having the really short feet. And for me, you know, from a really young age, we were kind of drilled into us to hold the runners on and to have a really good slide step.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's something I still kind of use today, but having my feet so close together allows me to do just a true, pure slide step. I mean, zero leg lift, just obviously all your weight, all your momentum is already over your back foot. So you don't have to shift the weight back in order to get down the mound and create all your force and momentum. So that's just kind of what I did when I was really young, and it's something I've stuck with all the way.
Plus, being so tall, you got arms and legs coming at you. Of course, that's what you and I both have. We're being tall. But I like your theory. A quicker to the plate, and your arms and legs are flying open.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The other thing I want to ask you about is your breaking ball. Sometimes the spin is so quick. Sometimes the spin is out of the zone. Do you slow the spin down, or you move the position of where the release is to kind of control that spin?
Definitely trying to manipulate it a little bit. I've got three different curveballs. So we've got quite a few different shapes to work with. But yeah, you know, obviously the lowest hanging fruit is being able to add and subtract some velocity. I mean, you know this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting back there, trying to, you know, either speed guys up or slow them down a little bit. But then on top of that, just kind of little things with the grip or even the release about just, you know, trying to backdoor a curveball versus getting something to the back leg. You know, obviously those are two slightly different pitch shapes, but being able to execute both of them, very important. So yeah, just kind of little things at release to try to maybe manipulate the ball a little bit.
Well, Tristan, last one for you. You shaved your head. You shaved your head and grew a beard even thicker. Tell me the reason why you did that.
You know, not really a great reason. I was down in Sacramento, and you know, I'd be lying to you if I told you I had some luscious mane, thick head of hair going into it. But it wasn't terrible. But you know, one day I got into the clubhouse, and one of the guys was cutting hair, and I just kind of poked my head in. And was like, "Hey, man, you want to shave my head?" And
Just one of those reasons, right?
just one of those. Just rolled out of bed, and I was like, "I think I might just do that today." And I'll tell you what, I feel a lot faster when I'm running my wind sprints before the game.
I bet
it's
you
a lot
do.
more aerodynamic.
Well, Tristan, thanks again for joining me. Continued success, buddy. You're putting zeros on the board, and love watching you pitch.
Hey, thank you very much. Always a pleasure, Bill.
That was Tristan Beck on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
All right, back on the Extra Inning postgame show here on KNBR with Bill Laskey. Hope your Saturday is doing well. Giants lost a tough one today. They had a 6-game win streak snapped as they got beat by the Baltimore Orioles 11-1. That's right, 11 runs, 13 hits for the Orioles, 1 run, 5 hits, and 1 error. And the only run was Willie Adames' home run in the first inning, his 25th home run on the season. A tough game, but they'll rebound tomorrow. They have to. They have to come out with a 5-1 homestand before they go to Colorado for 3 and St. Louis for 3. And that first pitch is going to be 1:05 right here on KNBR. It's also going to be on NBC Bay Area, so you'll be able to watch that. Justin Verlander on the hill. 2 wins, 10 losses, 4.47 earned run average, going against Tomoki Sugano. And Tomoki Sugano, it was 10-6 with a 4.06 earned run average. The big number on him, he's given up 23 home runs. So we'll see first pitch at 1:05. Coming up next, I'd like to jump into opponents. I'd like to look at what the Orioles have, some of their alumni guys. I sat down with Ben McDonald. Of course, he was the #1 pick for the Baltimore Orioles in 1989 out of LSU, and he had a phenomenal college season. He was a Golden Spikes winner. That was the best athlete in college. He also was inducted to the NCAA Baseball College Hall of Fame. He was on the Olympic team, won a gold medal in South Korea, 2 complete games against South Korea and Puerto Rico. So some good things with him, and some of the things that we talked about was pitching. And when you look at what he did in pitching, 3 times in his 9-year career, he went 220 innings or more. And a lot of things happened to him. He ended up having a sore shoulder coming out of the game. And now he's the color commentator for the Orioles on TV as well on radio. You'll love it. It was a good interview with him. Coming up next, sit back. Ben McDonald and I talk pitching and a lot more coming up right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR, the sports leader.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey. I'm honored to have my guest on today. He pitched 9 years in Major League Baseball. He also pitched for LSU, where he won the Golden Spikes Award for being the best player. In 2008, he was inducted into the NCAA Baseball College Hall of Fame. Currently, he's a color commentator for the Baltimore Orioles TV and radio broadcasts. Let me bring in Ben McDonald. Ben, how are you today?
Bill, I'm doing great, man. Good to talk to you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. And of course, you're now a commentator. How difficult was it to put the glove down and all of a sudden now you're broadcasting?
Well, I tell you, like anything you do, it's a transition. And I tell people my hardest thing now is from where I sit now is looking down the game and remembering how difficult the game was or is, and that's always my biggest challenge. And it looks easy from where I sit now, but although I've been out of the game for a while, my memory tells me it's a very difficult game to play. And so that's always my biggest challenge. I never went to school to be a broadcaster. It just kind of fell in my lap many years ago. My old college coach, as you mentioned, I played at LSU, and I had retired from the game of baseball due to shoulder issues. And Skip Bertman says, "You know what you'd be good at?" I was like, "You'd be a great broadcaster." I said, "Coach, I didn't even graduate from college. I don't know anything about broadcasting. I don't know." He said, "No," but he said, "You know the game of baseball, and people like you that can explain the game of baseball to them." So he called Cox Sports Television way back in 1999 and said, "Hey, I got a guy," because LSU was on Cox Sports Television about 12 times a year. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth and got going. And one thing led to another. I started doing some stuff for ESPN, and then, of course, the SEC network got big and got going, and that led to more stuff. Then the Orioles saw me, and I started coming back here doing stuff 15, 16, whatever years ago it was. And so, yeah, I'm very fortunate to have had two different kind of careers, one in playing and one in broadcasting. And it's fun, man. I call the college game. I still love the college game. I still do the College World Series every year and regionals and super regionals, but also do about 90 Oriole games a year. So it's busy, man. I don't enjoy the travel, to be honest with you, a whole lot. But man, when the umpire says play ball, like I'm all in. That's when I really enjoy what I'm doing.
That voice you hear in Extra Innings is Ben McDonald. Let's go back in time, Ben. Denham Springs High School. I know you played a little basketball and baseball. How much did you love the game of basketball?
Well, honestly, I loved basketball more than I did baseball growing up. I was probably one of these ADD kids before there was such a diagnosis, right? I like to move around and get up and down the court, and basketball was always a fun game for me because it was constant action. And as you know, the game of baseball at the youth league level can be a little boring every now and then, but basketball was never boring to me. And a lot of people don't know this. I was much more highly recruited out of high school to be a basketball player than I was to be a baseball player. And so I got an opportunity to go to LSU and play. I went to LSU on a basketball scholarship with the intent of playing baseball, of course. And I knew eventually one would win out over the other, And a funny story is my freshman year at LSU, we go all the way to the Elite Eight in basketball. That was the year Indiana won the national championship, and they beat us in the final in the Elite Eight. And when Bobby Knight hit the table and the phone shot up in the air and all that stuff. But that was that year in 1987, and I didn't get out to the baseball team until after the pre-SEC schedule. By the time I got out there, I mean, heck, they were already in conference play, and Skip came to me at the end of the year because I went off and played summer ball in 1987. I went to the Alaskan Summer League where a lot of kids go, and my fastball started to tick up, man, after my freshman year. All of a sudden, I was up to 97 miles an hour, and really nobody around college baseball was throwing that hard at the time. And Skip says, "Man, I think you got a real shot of making the Olympic team next year in 1988, but you need to be out here the whole year to show them what you can do." And so I walk in and tell Dale Brown after my freshman year, I was like, "Coach, I love you. I love basketball, but it looks like baseball is going to be my ticket if I'm going to play at the next level." And he lost it. He's like, "Ben, you're making a big mistake. I know you can play in the NBA. You need to stick this out. But if that's what you feel, then I'm okay with that. But I tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I'm going to leave you on basketball scholarship
Wow.
your sophomore year just in case you change your mind and you want to come back. Well, we rock along, and Coach calls in October. Coach Brown, the basketball coach, he goes, Ben, I need you to come out. I said, Coach, what's the matter? He said, the whole team has come down with mono. We don't even have enough players to even practice. I said, Coach, I tell you what. I said, I'm going to come back out because you got me on scholarship, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to play. But January 1, I said, I've got to go out to baseball because I want to wear the red, white, and blue, and I want a chance to be an Olympian, man. He said, Ben, that's a deal. I'll love you if you'll come do that. So I went back out my sophomore year, played till January 1. And as they say, the rest is history. I went out to baseball after that and made the Olympic team, won a gold medal, all that good stuff. And so it all worked out for the best.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Olympic Games in Seoul in 1988. Like you just mentioned, you won a gold medal, but you also threw 2 complete games, one against South Korea and one against Puerto Rico. When you were there, Ben, was it nerve-wracking? Was it nervous to play with all different players from all over United States and then competing with that USA on your chest?
Yeah, I tell you, it was nerve-wracking, especially pitching against the home team, in front of 45,000 people. That was. Now, as far as my teammates go, it's a little bit different now. As you know, the Team USA plays for about 2 weeks today's game. We had like a 3-month tour, man. We went everywhere together. We had trials in Millington, Tennessee, and they invited the best 45 amateur players. And, of course, we narrowed it down to 25. And so that was 2 weeks. And then, man, we were in Japan 2 different times, Italy, Korea. We took a tour around the U.S. playing minor league teams and stuff. And so we spent a lot of time together, it was, we got to know each other very, very well. And so by the time we got to the Olympics, we were a team, man. We'd kind of bled together, sweated together, all those things together, won and lost together. So we were pretty dialed in, and, but yeah, when we finally got over to Korea, it was a little added extra pressure because then you knew the gold medal was on the line, right? And we had to play well, and we did. We had a really good team: Jim Abbott and Andy Bennis and Robin Ventura, and on and on and on. We had a really, really good team. And I'm probably like a lot of people, man. I grew up watching the Olympics. I grew up watching the Summer Olympics at home and always wondering, man, what would that be like? Like, I couldn't even imagine as a kid what it would be like to stand on a gold medal platform and have somebody drape a gold medal over your neck. And to be able to, people say, man, you were lucky enough. I said, I was lucky to do a lot of different things, but that right there probably stands out as my favorite thing throughout my career, is being standing on the gold medal platform and hear the national anthem being played on foreign soil and them draping a gold medal over your neck. Like it hits different, when you're wearing the red, white, and blue and it says USA across your chest and you're on foreign soil competing for something. It's a little bit different. And so that's probably my favorite memory in my entire sports career.
Well, in 1989, you come back to LSU and you pitch your junior year. You go 14-4, 202 strikeouts, 3.4 earned run average, and you're selected number 1 pick from the Baltimore Orioles. It was time to go professional. It was time to sign your contract. It was time to try the Major League Baseball big league experience. How fun was that, being chosen number 1, and also a little more pressure coming at you being a number 1 pick?
Yeah, I tell people this all the time because I pitched so well in the Olympics in '88. I was one of the few underclassmen. Like, all those guys were a year older than me. Andy Bennis was the first pick in '88. Jim Abbott was a top 5 pick. Ventura was towards the top. All those guys were going to play pro ball. I was going back to LSU. I was going back to the college game because I was a year younger. And so, I tell people all this because I pitched so well and I did so well that I was projected the number 1 pick overall before the season even began in 1989. And that was a lot to live up to because I remember throwing games, man, of throwing a complete game and striking out 13 or 14 guys, but giving up 2 or 3 runs. And some reporter goes, hey, man, you had an off night tonight. I'm like, really? I just threw 150 pitches. I struck out 13 against a top 10 team, but I gave up 3 runs. And you're saying I had an off night, And so the expectations for me, I tried to live up to those in college, and I didn't get to enjoy my junior year as much as I wanted to. And for that matter, even when I got in pro ball, and as you know, it was I had two minor league starts in 1989, right after I was drafted and signed, and I was in the big leagues the same year. And I tried to live up to those expectations, and I got graded out, I guess, at the time, the highest ever grade that they could put on a pitcher or a ball player coming out of the amateur status. And so I tried to live up to a lot of different things, and it honestly, it hurt me. It backed up my career. And there was a lot of nights, like a lot of young guys, I went back and banged my head up against the hotel room wondering why I couldn't have success at the big league level. But I had never called my own pitches in college. Coach Bertman called every pitch I ever threw. Then all of a sudden, 2 months later, man, I'm facing the best hitters in the world, and I got to call my own game. And I'd never done that before. And so it's tough to learn, as you know. Like, learning at the minor league level is difficult, but when you're learning in front of 40, 45,000 facing the best hitters in the world every night, it can be tough. And I had success and I failed, but I always felt like I was mentally tough enough to accept it, even though it wasn't easy. And I tell people this all the time, like, I was very depressed at times, but I felt like I could handle it. And thank gosh for Cal Ripken Jr. and Rick Sutcliffe and players like that really came along and kind of put their arm around me and loved on me a little bit and gave me some ideas on how to succeed at the big league level.
That voice you hear on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show is Ben McDonald. Well, Ben, you and I have something in common. We both had Frank Robinson as our first-year manager. I had him out here in San Francisco, and you had him in 1989 through 91 with the Baltimore Orioles. How did you like Frank as a manager?
Man, well, I don't know what your experience was with Frank, but I can tell you, and I'll go to my grave saying this, I think Frank Robinson hated pitchers, even his own pitchers on his own team. Let me just say that because, and look, that dude played with, we all know how tough of a guy he was, but I just felt like, he wasn't the greatest communicator with pitchers. And he would actually talk to you a little bit when you were going well, but like, if you weren't going well at the time, like, he would walk around the universe not to see you or talk to you, and that was my experience with Frank, it was like that. But Frank was old school, obviously, and I remember Frank called me in my first full spring training in 1990, and he goes, "Hey, you're going to be the opening day pitcher for us, but here's the deal. Like, you got to win 20 games this year or we don't have a chance." And I looked at Frank and I went, "Frank, I'm 22 years old. I don't even know how to pitch up here yet. You're naming me opening day starter, and you're telling me I got to win 20 games. Well, there's no pressure on that. On me there, is it?" But that was Frank, man. And I said, "Yes, sir, boss. I'm going to do the best I can," and I walked away from that meeting going, well, my gosh, Frank's telling me I got to win 20 games my first full year in the big leagues, And so, yeah, I love Frank. He was old school. He made me tougher. He made a lot of guys tougher. He was a hell of a competitor, and I picked that up from him as well, although he wasn't a player anymore, but he was a manager. But he was fun. He was fun, but he was tough, but he was also fair. I tell people he was fair. It was just different is what it was.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I had him in 1982, and he didn't change 7 years after you had him, so... He was very competitor, and one of the things he always said to me, Ben, is he'd say, "Hey, Bill, if you don't pitch inside, you're not going to be pitching in the big leagues long." And I thought that was one of the greatest phrases, and I still use it when I do pitching lessons and clinics. I really believe what he said, and you said it. He was a Hall of Fame player. He didn't like pitchers at all, Ben. So you moved on. So I want to talk about Ray Miller, your pitching coach. I've known Ray for many years before he passed away. One of the coolest pitching coaches. You could talk to him at daily. I loved his phrase, "Work fast, change speeds." I know you heard that many times.
Yes. I mean, it's it's weird how you pick up different things from different pitching coaches, and work fast, change speeds. Don Rowe, when I went to Milwaukee, said, "Ben, the game's simple. Throw two of the first three pitches for a strike. Throw strike one, throw two." And those are simple little things that we can complicate the game. And the game that we're in today's world, man, there's a lot of information out there, and we can complicate it. But at the end of the day, I always tell people that it feels like to me, the more the game changes, the more it seems to stay the same. And what I mean by that from a pitching standpoint is if you make quality pitches and you get ahead of guys and you expand the zone, you can have success. You work from behind and you leave balls in the middle part of the plate. Guess what? They get hit hard. The game's been like that for 150 years. It'll always be like that, no matter what the analytical world is out there. And so I learned from those two guys and everybody I took along the way. And I wish I'd have had that information from some earlier in my career to kind of simplify things, and because I mean, after I had a bad problem. I don't know how you warmed up, but I had a bad problem in and throwing too many warm-up pitches because I was perfectionist. I wanted to get everything right before I went into the ball. I wanted the spin on the breaking ball to be right. I wanted the location on the fastball to be right. I wanted everything to be right. And I got to Milwaukee after 7 years in the big leagues, and Don Guerrero goes, "What are you doing?" I said, what are you talking about, boss? He goes, "You were throwing 70." He said, "You got nothing left." I said, "I got plenty left." He said, "No." He said, "This is what we're going to start doing. When you get warmed up from now on, you got 48 pitches wide open, and we're out of here. I don't give a shit if you're throwing them up against the backstop. We're leaving right now." And I said, "Okay." And, it worked for me. And he said, "Ben, understand this. This is just a warm-up down here." And it took me a while to figure that out because there were games probably like you had and I had that I left the bullpen before the game going, "I don't care who we're playing, they're in trouble tonight." Yep. And I'd be knocked out sometimes in the fourth inning in the shower, And then there were games I left the bullpen and I went, "I got nothing tonight. I can't control the ball. I can't spin it. I got nothing." And you turn around in the eighth inning and you're winning 5-1 in the eighth inning. And I learned at that point that the bullpen before the game is just a warm-up. That's all it is. Don't put any emphasis on it. Just get your work in, get your warm-up in, try to get your mechanics right, and then when you get to the game mound, you'll start to figure it out because that adrenaline flow you get in a ball game when a batter steps in the box, you can't duplicate that down in the bullpen before the game, right? And so it took me a while to figure that out, and once I figured that out, warm-ups became a lot easier for me.
Ben McDonald joining me for a few more minutes on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. We talked about a little before when you were just jumping into the press box and working as a color commentator. And I know when I throw you these numbers, you're going to shake your head. 3 times in your 9-year career, you threw 220 innings or more. You had over 30 starts many years. Now that whole thing has changed. It's all dialed back to pitch count, and how many innings they throw is not even a question mark anymore. When you think about all these years that you pitched that many innings, Ben, it was hard on your arm. You talked about it earlier, leaving the game with a little shoulder issues. But at that time, you were a competitor. You were a gamer. You wanted the ball for 9 innings.
Yeah, the game's changed. And, I threw a lot like you did in your time, especially in college and in high school. Look, I threw 352 innings in 16 months at LSU. From my sophomore year straight to the Olympic team, I threw 80 innings that Olympic summer. Then right back to my junior year, I threw 352 innings in 16 months. Was it too much? Probably it was. But on the other hand, I don't know if I'd have got to where I got without taking the ball. And I was like you and anybody else, man. Coach would say, "Hey, can you give me this?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, man, I want to." Like, I'm a competitor, like I want to go out and pitch. I didn't think about arm care. We didn't know that much about arm care. We knew that probably, there was a game I threw 221 pitches in high school, pitched all 13 innings of a state semifinal game, and then closed the next day. There were times at LSU I pitched 9 on Saturday and closed on Sunday. But they would say, "Hey, can you?" And I would say, "You damn right I can. Give me the ball." And yeah, that's just the way I was wired. Like, I didn't know any better. I didn't think about the big leagues. I wasn't thinking about making money. I wasn't thinking about arm care. I was thinking about going out and competing because that's what I love to do, And so the people say, "Well, because what you did in high school and college, it cost you 5 years of your big league career." And I was like, well, maybe it did. We don't know that to be true or not true. I don't know that, but I love doing what I was doing, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. Yeah, do I wish I would have pitched 15 years? Of course, we all do, but it just wasn't in the cards. But it wasn't from lack of work or trying. It was just injuries that happened. But to go back to your point about this year, yeah, I don't, the game – we feel like we're taking better care. That's what's weird to me. I feel like we're taking the best care we've ever taken of our throwers and our pitchers leading in to the last few years, but yet we have some of the most injuries that we've ever had. So are we really doing the right thing? And for me, Major League Baseball's got to figure something out, man, because we got to have our stars on the field, and to have our stars blowing out, we're missing guys with Tommy John and everything that's going on. It's time to figure something out. And we know what it's about. I mean, it's about chasing velo, right? Velo is king. We know that. And so guys are chasing velo. They're chasing spins and shapes because now we have the analytical data out there that tells us what spins get guys out, what shapes on certain pitches can get guys out, what velocity get guys out. So now we're all chasing those spins and those shapes right now. And I think we're doing things that are really unnatural to our arm and trying to make the ball move in certain ways. And I think, honestly, between the velocity and chasing spins and shapes, that's what's causing our pitchers to have the arm problems that we're having right now. And it's a max effort game, as you know, and the average big league pitcher is pitching about 5 innings, 5 1/3 per start. That's all they're averaging right now because it's max effort from, there still are some pitchers out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting everybody in the same category because there are still guys out there that are going to move the ball, change speeds, and do all those kinds of things. But for the most part, man, we're chasing velo and shapes right now, and I just don't think that's a good thing.
Ben, what a pleasure catching up with you today, my friend. It's been a pleasure talking baseball with you, and continued success with the Baltimore Orioles doing TV and radio.
I sure appreciate it, sir. Great talking to you.
That was Ben McDonald on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. As we close out a Saturday, the Giants lose 11-1 at Oracle Park tomorrow, 105. They play the rubber game of a 3-game match against the Baltimore Orioles, and that first pitch will be right here at 105. I want to thank my guests today, Tristan Beck, Ben McDonald, as well as Dave Tobner. If you missed any of those interviews, you can check them out on the All KNBR podcast. Tomorrow on the Extra Inning post-game show, did a great interview with Rick Dempsey, 24 years behind the plate, 10 different 20-game winners he caught behind the plate, and in 24 years, he was only on a disabled list twice, and that was being hit by a pitcher. But a great, great interview with him. You'll want to hear that one tomorrow. And also Steve Stone, he won the American League Cy Young in 1980 with the Baltimore Orioles. Just had a career year, 25-7 with a 3.2 earned run average. And we sit down and talk about him, Earl Weaver, Ray Miller, and some of the great pitchers on the Baltimore Orioles staffs back then. I want to thank my producer today, Danny Dunn, Double D, did a great job. And I want to thank you Giants fans for calling in. We'll do it again tomorrow as the 105 game will start, and we'll do the extra inning post game after. For Bill Laskey, be safe, be well. Have a great rest of the Saturday. More coming up on KNBR, the Sports Leader.